Welcome to the Special Forces in World War II podcast, transmitting on this frequency. This broadcast is your dedicated channel for comprehensive intelligence regarding World War II Special Forces operations. Our transmissions encompass in-depth analysis of their strategic maneuvers, cutting-edge equipment, illustrious biographies, and an array of pertinent subjects. The orchestration of these transmissions is executed by the expert team of the Special Forces in World War II website, a squad deeply immersed in the historical theatre. For further insights, visual aids, and captured moments frozen in time, navigate to our virtual headquarters at worldwar2-soft.com. Your immersion into the front lines of knowledge awaits. Over and out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the journey through the annals of history with our Special Forces in World War II podcast. In our previous episodes, we embarked on an exploration of Unternehmen Greif and the role of Panzer Brigade 150 within its intricate web of deception and engagement. Today, we unveil the next chapter in this saga, a chapter that brings us to the battle for Malmedy and the end of Panzer Brigade 150. The picturesque town of Malmedy, nestled amidst the Ardennes, became the epicenter of a fierce struggle that would test both Allied and Axis forces. Join us as we step onto the battlefield, feeling the tension in the air as troops and tanks maneuver for supremacy. We'll delve into the events that led to this critical engagement and the strategies employed by both sides. As the battle for Malmedy ignites, the landscape is transformed into a theater of chaos and courage. We'll take you through the intense clashes, the roar of artillery, and the harrowing moments faced by soldiers on both fronts. As the battle unfolds, decisions are made that will shape the course of history and determine the fate of this pivotal engagement for Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein. As the dust settles and the battle subsides, we'll examine the aftermath of the clash at Malmedy. Besides the tragic American air attacks on the town after the battle, we also examine what happened to Panzer Brigade 150 after Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, the strategic implications for the Ardennes offensive, the lessons learned, and the costs of this engagement will come to light. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave your thoughts, and join us next time as we continue our mission to shed light on the untold stories of Special Forces in World War II. But for now, let's look into Panzer Brigade's 150's battle for Malmedy and the consequences for the existence of the unit. December 21st, 1944. At the start of the attack at daybreak, the right flank formed by Kampfgruppe Y starts moving towards their objective. Almost immediately, they are halted by a fierce artillery barrage, preventing them to advance even a little bit. Kampfgruppe Commander Scherf makes the decision to abort the attack and to retreat to the starting line of the attack. Skorzeny immediately orders them to establish a defensive line, 4 kilometers north of Ligneville, to defend against a possible American counterattack. The defense line would be crucial to defend the right flank to cover the left flank where Kampfgruppe X would attack. On the left flank, Kampfgruppe X launches its attack with 2 infantry companies, supported by the 5 Ersatz Panthers, Panthers modified to resemble American-made M10 tanks. They advance from Ligneville through Bellevaux and initiate the assault along the Route de Falaise. At 4:30, they target the positions defended by the 3rd Battalion of the 20th Regiment to the west of Malmedy. As they reach the bottom of the hill, a part of the column continues towards Malmedy, while the main body turns left onto a small road leading to the Warsche River Bridge and Rollbahn C. However, during their approach, the Ersatz Panthers trigger an American tripwire in a field, setting off flares and illuminating the entire area. Caught in the glare of the flares, the Ersatz Panthers immediately open fire. While advancing, the leading tank strikes a mine in a minefield in front of a railway bridge and explodes. American tank destroyers, positioned behind a house near the bridge that is also serving as the command post for a platoon of the 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion attached to the 20th Regiment, engage the remaining tanks. The house also contains men from the Tank Destroyer Unit of the 291st Engineer Combat Battalion and a small number of infantry from K Company of the 120th Regiment, totaling about 30 soldiers. The Americans have taken positions at every window, returning rifle and bazooka fire. The German Panzer Grenadiers reach the house and throw grenades into the basement, forcing the defenders to retreat to safer parts of the house. By this time, the advancing Ersatzpanthers have moved past the house. One of the Ersatzpanthers positions itself to cover the bridge and opens fire on the house. By that time, almost all American tank destroyers are taken out of action, and many of their crew members are dead. However, Private Francis Curry from K Company displays remarkable bravery and earns the Medal of Honor during this intense battle. He grabs a bazooka, dashes across the exposed road to retrieve some rockets. He finds Private Adam Lucero and loads the bazooka for him. Once loaded, Lucero fires at the turret of one of the Ersatzpanthers and disables the tank. After stopping the Ersatzpanther, Curry courageously ventures out alone with the bazooka. He targets and destroys a house occupied by Panzer Grenadiers, stalks 3 more Panthers, and uses a half-track machine gun to provide cover fire for the surviving men of the tank destroyers to make their escape. His actions are instrumental in the defense of the position. During that same time, from positions along the embankment above, soldiers from B Company of the 99th Infantry Battalion open fire on the remaining Ersatzpanthers and the Panzer Grenadiers charging the embankment. Despite several attempts, the Panzer Grenadiers cannot advance beyond the foot of the embankment due to the heavy American resistance. German machine gun crews repeatedly try to set up their weapons in front of the embankment, but suffer heavy casualties in the process. Artillery positioned on the hills on the northern bank of the Warch River also shells the area, causing additional panic among the German troops. The use of proximity-fused shells, which explode in the air, further intensifies the chaos. After 2 hours of intense fighting, the assault gradually subsides, and the Panzer Grenadiers begin to retreat. Around 10:30, the fog that covers the area lifts, providing a clear view of the action near the bridge for the American soldiers on the railway embankment. Inside the house, the remaining defenders are still holding out, but come under fire from the embankment as the Americans believe the house is occupied by German forces. The Ersatzpanther, positioned at the bridge, is hit, and its crew abandons the tank. As they try to seek shelter by running up the road, 4 of them are shot and killed by American riflemen, while the 5th remains hidden in a nearby house until captured later that day. Throughout the day, American artillery unleashes a relentless barrage of 3,000 shells, contributing to the gradual subsiding of the fighting. Scorzeny, who has observed the situation from a hilltop on the Route de Falaise since daybreak, is disheartened to see his Panthers engage in battle without making progress beyond the bridge. The remaining Panthers continue to fight and provide cover for the Grenadiers as they slowly disengage. Von Volkersam, the commander of the attack, eventually returns himself, suffering from a limp and supported by a medical officer. He is wounded in his backside. December 22nd, 1944. In the early morning, Scorzeny returns to Corps headquarters and once again appeals for heavy artillery support. Afterward, he goes back to his command post, accompanied by an Oberstleutnant acting as his deputy. The Oberstleutnant is to assist him in his tasks, since Skorzeny experiences hindrance caused by his head-eye wound. Together, they carefully plan the locations for the artillery batteries that have been promised and make arrangements for the reconnaissance of several American gun positions. Skorzeny stays inside for the rest of the day due to his injuries. During these early hours, Kampfgruppe Y makes another attempt to advance east of Malmedy. However, the outposts of the 120th Regiment are prepared and the German column is forced to retreat. At 14 o'clock, men from the 291st Engineer Combat Battalion demolish the massive stone-arched railway bridge on the Route de Falaise, effectively blocking the road west of Malmedy. Additionally, the bridge carrying the railway over the Route de Falaise and the Warsh Bridge west of Malmedy are also blown up. December 23, 1944. American commanders mistakenly believe that the small town of Malmedy has fallen into enemy hands. At around 14 o'clock, American aircraft suddenly appear over Malmedy, catching the town by surprise. German anti-aircraft guns positioned on the hills to the south are unable to shoot down any of the American planes, and the aircraft begin their assault. The initial attack involves 6 B-26 Marauders, followed by 12 B-24 Liberators. They strike the heart of the town, including landmarks like Place Albert Heijn, Place de Rome, and Chemin Rouge. Destruction quickly accumulates, and fires start to spread throughout the town. From his position on the hills to the south of Malmedy, Skorzeny is puzzled by these attacks. Observing the American aircraft returning, he mistakenly believes that the town has been taken by German forces, although he isn't sure which unit could have accomplished such a feat. The situation is filled with confusion and uncertainty as the events of the day unfold. December 24, 1944. Skorzeny's visit to the 6th SS Panzer Army headquarters at Meyerode, Belgium, is challenging since he is suffering from fever due to his wounds. Nevertheless, he persists in his request for the promised artillery delivery and manages to return to his front headquarters later that day. As the long-awaited artillery commander arrives sometime later, Skorzeny eagerly shows him the maps, indicating the targets and gun positions. However, his excitement is short-lived, as the commander hesitates and reveals that he has only 16 rounds for the entire battalion, with no immediate prospects of receiving more ammunition. Meanwhile, the Americans' bombers continue to bomb their own positions in Malmedy, exacerbating the fires from the previous day's attack. Christmas Eve is far from joyful for Skorzeny and his men, as the American artillery bombardments are relentless and the impending threat of an infantry assault looms over the lightly held positions. The soldiers face additional challenges with rations arriving sporadically and a shortage of winter clothing. Despite the circumstances, they make an effort to create a festive ambience by using the top of a tall pine tree and a single candle as an improvised Christmas tree. The cook, an experienced sailor from Einheitsstielau, manages to prepare a tough joint from a deceased cow, providing some sustenance. The most heartwarming surprise comes from a local priest, who generously gives a bottle of wine per man, adding a touch of warmth to the harsh conditions they endure. December 25, 1944. Skorzeny visits von Fulkersam at his forward command post, located just 300 meters behind the front line. They discuss the situation and witness one of Skorzeny's assault detachments returning with a surprising capture, an American scouting party. Meanwhile, the relentless American Air Force bombing attacks persist, and on that day they target specific areas in Malmedy, including Rue du Parc, Place du Parc, and the old Rue des Arceliers, further devastating the town. During the bombing raid, the pilots notice conspicuous orange signs on the ground, indicating the presence of American troops. Unfortunately, it is too late to prevent the damage that had already been inflicted. The consequences of the bombing are dire for Malmedy's inhabitants. Out of the 1,600 houses in the Cité Malmedy, half are completely destroyed or rendered uninhabitable. The civilian population endures great suffering, with several hundred individuals sustaining injuries and 202 losing their lives, including dozens of refugees who sought shelter from the advancing German forces. Tragically, at least 100 American soldiers are also killed, while the Germans maintain a safe distance from Malmedy and suffer no casualties at all. December 28, 1944. Panzer Brigade 150 maintains its defensive positions until this date, when it is relieved by elements of the 18 Volksgrenadier Division. Aftermath. In the aftermath of the Ardennes offensive, the Panzer Brigade 150 proceeds to Schlierbach, Belgium, located east of Saint-Vith, and then embarks on a train journey to their original headquarters in Grafenwöhr, Germany. As planned, the brigade is disbanded and most troops return to their respective units. This reorganization and dispersal process is overseen by the Oberkommando West and is completed by January 23, 1945. According to Skorzény's estimates, the brigade's losses in terms of killed, wounded, and missing soldiers amounted to approximately 15% of its original strength. The casualties were primarily attributed to the relentless barrage of artillery fire and air attacks faced during Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein. The primary goal for Panzer Brigade 150 for Unternehmen Greif was the capture at least 2 out of 3 bridges across the River Meuse by disguised Kampfgruppen. However, the course of events for Panzer Brigade 150 took an unexpected turn due to the unforeseen challenges posed by massive traffic congestion. These extensive delays had a considerable impact on the overall offensive, derailing the original plans of the brigade. Ultimately, the initial objectives had to be re-evaluated, leading the brigade to adopt a more conventional combat role within the larger operation. Assigned with the pivotal task of seizing Malmedy, the brigade encountered an additional setback when a deserter from its ranks tipped off the U.S. forces about the impending plans. As the attack unfolded, the German forces found themselves met with a barrage of intense and overwhelming gunfire from the U.S. defenders. This fierce resistance forced the Germans into a tactical retreat, thwarting their efforts to capture Malmedy. This intersection of strategic misfortunes and unexpected twists of fate shaped the unlucky exploits of Panzer Brigade 150. Thank you for joining us for this journey through the battle for Malmedy. Be sure to stay connected, subscribe to our podcast, and share your thoughts as we continue to delve into the hidden narratives of special forces in World War II. And now, brace yourselves for the climax of our 4-part series. We bring you the story tale of Einheitsstierlau, the German commando unit that infiltrated behind enemy lines in American jeeps, dressed in American uniforms and equipment. Their mission? Reconnaissance to sow confusion, gather intelligence, and execute daring sabotage operations. Join us as we explore the individuals who orchestrated this unconventional form of warfare, their motivations, and the challenges they faced. We'll analyze their linguistic prowess, their daring disguises, and their ability to navigate enemy territory undetected. We also investigate the consequences for members being captured in American uniform. As we near the conclusion of our series, we'll delve into the legacy of Einheitsstierlau. What impact did their actions have on the larger theater of World War II? And what unanswered questions linger about their covert exploits? Join us in the next episode as we shed light on the shadows of deception and valor that defined this remarkable unit. Until then, remember to honor the past, seek the truth, and continue to explore the remarkable tales of special forces in World War II. Thank you for being part of our journey. Stay tuned and keep the spirit of history alive. And that concludes this mission briefing, fellow warriors of knowledge. We've navigated through the trenches of information, delving deep into the battlefields of history. As we wrap up this episode in our campaign for understanding, remember that knowledge is your most potent weapon. Stay vigilant and keep sharpening your intellectual arsenal. We'll rendezvous again for another episode, continuing our relentless pursuit of enlightenment. Until then, keep your mind sharp, your curiosity burning, and your determination unwavering. Simultaneously, you are hereby alerted to our outposts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, fortifying our information dissemination. Should you possess any pertinent intelligence to bolster our mission, transmit your findings with no hesitation. Your contributions shall be prominently acknowledged within the operational archives. Furthermore, for those prepared to provide substantial reinforcement, navigate to our Patreon forward base and enlist. Your support is integral to sustaining our forward thrust. Carry forth the legacy. Dismissed.